All right, so we are recording and then we're going to pop over and we're going to go Facebook Live. This is when I feel like I need another set of hands.
Yeah, it's getting to that point. I keep saying I need an assistant.
Well, if you find one, I'll share it.
Assistant co-op.
Right. Hey, I could deal with that. Okie dokie, artichoke. So we're gonna hit play on our high class music to let everybody know.
Oh,
That is really loud.
I was getting ready for that.
That's it. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It is 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and that means it's time for another live episode of the Jason Elliott Show. I'm really excited to have you all here tonight, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our very special guest, Rebeckah Ruth. I'm not going to tell you anything about her, though, until she's on here and can talk to you about creatives uniting. So that's what our topic is tonight. But before we get going with that, I got to ask you a couple of questions I always ask, and you never answer. I figured one day when I get far enough in life, people will actually start answering these questions. But dear audience, tell me, who are you? Where are you watching from? What's the weather like where you are? How's your mama doing? And what's been the 51% of your week? Your bonus question this week is, what's the best piece of fashion that you've ever seen in your life? So those are the things I want you to put into the comments below. Like I said, I don't expect you to, but I still always want you to. And with that being said, I'm going to do what I'm about to ask you to do, which is pop onto your mobile devices that you're watching this on, or if you're watching us on a recording, copy that link and share it. So we want other people to watch the show with us tonight, or see the recording later, and that's why we make it available. So I'm going to pop on here, I'm going to find it, and I'm going to share it, and I hope that you will do the same. Because we're just going to sit here awkwardly until you do, or until the music runs out. All right. Oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. The music ran out, but you don't get a free break. Apparently, I couldn't share it that way. So that's why you always have a backup. I'm going to use my iPad, and we're going to share it that way. Beck and I were talking before we started about how we need assistance, and this is exactly why we need assistance, because everything falls apart when we don't. See, in past seasons, during all of this awkward music is when I would get up and pour myself a glass of bourbon. And I'm not saying that I haven't poured one, but you know how that goes. As y'all are coming in, make sure that you say hello to me so I can see you and I can hear you. We're going to say hey to Jordan Nerney. Jordan Nerney is our first guest here on the show tonight, or our first friend popping in. Says, loving the stash and hair tonight, my friend. Thanks so much, Jordan. I appreciate it. I have to say, I almost shaved off this mustache right before the show. And that's not to say that it won't come off right after, but you know, that's how we do. All right. So we're sharing with just a couple of people here. All right. That works great. Okie dokie. Y'all know the end of the song means the official beginning of the show. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, and anyone and everyone in between or outside, my name is Jason Elliott, and this is another live episode of The Jason Elliott Show. I'm really excited tonight to have a very special guest talking about something that y'all know I love, creativity and fashion and the industry. So I was really excited because when I posted up the link for this season of guests, and I said, hey, if you want to be on, just fill this form out and we'll get you on an episode of The Jason Elliott Show. This young lady was one of the very first to fill out the survey to say, I want to be on the show. And we've had the opportunity to work together quite a bit. through some platforms that we'll talk about tonight. And with that, I'm going to stop my talking for just a second, but I am going to introduce to you the one, the only, Rebeckah Ruth. Hi, Rebeckah. Welcome to the Jason Elliott Show.
Hi, Jason. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're super excited to have you. So I didn't want to do too many spoiler alerts because I love every time that we work together and we're like, so the very first time that we met, but we've had the opportunity to work together on a couple of creative endeavors. That's my very first question is, how do you recollect those endeavors? Tell people kind of like what you and I have done in the past together, and then we'll move into what you're doing in this industry.
Yeah, so it's funny because I was thinking about it earlier today and I was like, I'm so glad that Jason is one of the models that I was nice to so that we can continue this like great relationship. Because, okay, like not always nice to models. Sorry, models who are watching, but you guys are a whole breed in of yourselves. But yeah. So I was like, this is awesome that I was nice to Jason. But no, I met Jason when he was a model for one of several shows that I was working on as a stylist and things like that back in the day, and just able to, stay in touch over the years. So, but Jason was always like really cool. You're always cool. You always listened. You always came prepared. So yes.
Well, like I kind of feel like there's not much of a choice because as a model, like our job is not to just like not to sit up there and like do ourselves good, but our stylists and our creative directors and all of these people who are making this thing happen. That's who we're supposed to listen to anyway. So I mean, I don't get being a diva or a diva or anything like that. Just like get out. Your job is to model the clothes or to like make the vibe or whatever it is. Now I'm curious to know some of your horror stories of bad models, but we'll save that for another episode.
Well, all I can say is you always understood the assignment, Jason.
Yes, I love it. Well, I love those. And speaking of assignments, you mentioned that, we met while you were a stylist and kind of this on the creative director side of some shows and some things like that. So what is it exactly that's brought you here tonight that you do in this industry of fashion?
Yeah, so I have about 17 years of experience in the fashion industry. Started out as a model, and then, as we mentioned, stylist, and produce fashion shows, photo shoots, yada yada yada, personal styling. Now I I am a fashion consultant, which just allows me to work on a lot of different fashion projects that have come up. So one of the things for me that I really noticed early on, and it kind of stayed with me throughout my career, that there really isn't a sense of community within the fashion industry. Why? Because the fashion industry can be very competitive. It can be very cutthroat. So quite frankly, people don't want to be your friend in this industry because they're competing against you. So, and I was like, yeah, but this is an industry where you need community, because at the end of the day, diversity and everything is great, but at the end of the day, this industry is based on outward appearance, right? Like it's like a couple like shows and people aside, it's not based on your personality. It's based on the way you look. So I'm like, that's tough for anyone. That's a tough industry.
Oh yeah.
Like, your bread and butter is off of the way you look. Like this is one of those industries where community is needed. And so I was like, yeah, I was like, so somebody needs to like create this group, or I don't know. I didn't like the word support group, because I was like, I mean, like, it's not that serious, but like something.
Right. I mean, some days it feels like it is. Let's be real about it.
True. So I was like, yeah, like something. So I just kept saying this to people over the years. And then like finally I was like, okay, well, I guess I have to do it because no one else is doing it. So I guess I'll create it. And so back in 2019, I started just a group. called Worthy, and I started under another fashion nonprofit. And honestly, it was just supposed to be fashion and beauty creatives coming together at least once a month, just kind of networking, fellowship, like just hanging out with each other and like kind of trying to cultivate a sense of community and friendship with creatives, right? And then COVID hit, and of course we all know everybody went inside. So I was like, all right, well, I just started this thing, so it's not really cute for me to shut it down already. So I was like, all right, we're gonna have to shift. So I went virtual, like a lot of people did during the pandemic. And honestly, like, because I had to go virtual, I shifted everything to, virtually. And now the community, the family, I call it the Worthy family, we're expanded now across 6 countries so far, like globally, I don't know, 1,000 plus within the family and things like that. And really it's 3 things. We focus on building community, like real community within the industry. It's mentorship. We have a mentorship program, and just support. And support can literally be like, I have one really close friend within the family that we call each other like, if one more person argues my rates today, I'm gonna, like sometimes you just need that. You need that person to vent to, or you need that person who just gets it, because people who are not in this industry don't get it.
Right.
A lot of times they're like, what are you complaining about? You get to wear like fancy clothes and go to fancy parties and like, what could be so hard? So they just don't get it. And that's okay. Right. But then it's important that you make sure that you have people in your life who do get it. And but also who are on your team, who aren't like, silently like sidelining, sabotaging you either. So you got to make sure you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a really good point to make, because for as misunderstood as the industry is for being all glitz and glam, I can't tell you how many times as a model, people are like, oh, you have it so hard, you look so pretty, and then you get your picture taken and then you're done and blah. That is not it. So this season, I actually want to bring on like a panel and do some model talks and all of that, because it is very different being on that side. So there's a lot of misconceptions from the outside. There's also, some misconceptions that everybody is either your best friend and they want you to succeed and they want to help you get all your bookings, or everybody is out to get you and it's so cutthroat. And I think the truth is, in this industry of fashion and of photography and modeling, we're somewhere kind of in the middle of those 2 extremes, which I enjoy, because I am a competitive person, but I'm someone that wants to help bring other people up. So it's very interesting that you bring up that point of knowing, who's in your industry and who's in your corner.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, you're not going to get picked for every job. Right. I don't model anymore, but like, I don't get picked for every styling job. I don't get picked for you're not going to get picked for everything, and that's okay. But if you have also a mindset of, okay, I didn't get it, but let me lend a hand to this person or to that person, and also I'm a big supporter of collaboration, because I'm like, okay, I didn't get that job, but what if we came together and we did something together, and things that like, I'm also like, I hate pettiness and cattiness and all of that S-ness, whatever.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, it's just really hard for me. And I was just like, I'm tired of it. Let's squash this. Let's squash it. Let's do this better. Let's do this industry better, because don't get me wrong, there are people who try to trip you on the runway. There are. But
oh yeah, absolutely. I've worked with a couple of them. Like, that's what I said. We could have a whole show about like the sneaky slipperies of the industry. But I think you bring up a good point that we know they're there. What are we going to focus on? All these negatives and possible pitfalls, or are we going to focus on, as the group is called, being worthy and helping each other? So I think that's really awesome. So to help people with a little bit of context, I think, you and I both being in the industry, we're throwing out a bunch of terms here and there and all that stuff. So when you're talking about being a stylist, can you talk to me about what that entails? And then we'll go through like what a stylist is or what a director is, what a model is, just to give people kind of this understanding of why what you do is so important.
Sure. So, I mean, there's a stylist, to be just like plain and simple, is someone who literally helps you put together a look, right? Mm-hmm. So, and there's different terms. There's personal styling, there's wardrobe stylists, there's fashion stylists, but they all kind of mean the same thing. We help. So let's put it like this. There's a designer. The designer creates the clothes, creates the looks, right? Then the stylist is the one who comes together and says, okay, these earrings should go with this skirt, with this belt, with these boots, with these, earrings, and literally puts an entire look together. So on the personal styling, which I've done, that would be like if Jason hired me to be his personal stylist. And a lot of, celebrities do it, and a lot of rich people who have money to go around do it.
A lot of people with more money than style.
Right. Thank you. Yes, they have a lot of money, and like sometimes it's just people with stupid money, honestly, who just don't know what to do with it. And it's like, and they literally you help them put looks together. And sometimes it's a closet makeover, so you help them audit and organize their closet. Like, this really is a thing. And so things like that. So there's personal styling. Then as part of being a stylist, which is the part that I love the most, is fashion show styling and stuff. That's a whole job in and of itself. Okay. Because let's say the average fashion show has 25, 30 models, right? So when you're styling for a fashion show, you're styling at least 2 looks, sometimes 3, but at least 2 looks for 30 models. That's 60 looks. Okay. That's a lot. Okay. That's a lot. And then they all always have a theme. So the thing is, sometimes you're working with designers, sometimes you're not. If you're working with designers, obviously a lot easier. But if you're just, you have to come up with a theme, then you have to go around and pull all the clothes and then literally put 60 looks that are different enough that each look is unique, but at the same time, they blend together like a collection. So that's a fashion show stylist, or, stylists do all of the above. Photo shoot styling is kind of the same concept. But yeah, so a stylist is a person who and that's head to toe. So that's even like deciding what your hair is going to look like, what your makeup is going to look like. It's literally head to toe styling.
Yeah. And I think there's so many layers, and that's why people will look at somebody walking down a runway, for example, or they'll flip open a magazine and say, oh, okay, well, they just like put some clothes on and took a picture. Sometimes it does look like that, but I guarantee you on the other side, there's someone who's making these choices. Like I always think back to, and I made fun of it when I watched The Devil Wears Prada, and Miranda was reading the riot act to like the different colors of blue. And, and I was like, that is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Now that I model and I've styled shoots and I've been creative director for shoots and an on-set consultant, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that's not going to show up right. We got to do it this way. Or that belt is like got too much texture, or those earrings have too much sparkle. And so like, there really is a lot that goes behind it. Even if we don't like what we see on the runway or in the magazine, it really was a whole thought process. And it's like a whole bill, because like you said, you've got your designers, and a lot of times designers are like, oh, use my thing, use my thing, use my thing. Sometimes their thing is not what, the thing is for the director's theme, or their thing isn't going to fit your model. And so like the stylist really has a lot of work ahead of them to do that.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite scenes in The Devil Wears Prada, because I'm like, she just literally like said it, like she got it, like, 100%. And, because it's like people who, again, who aren't in the industry and stuff like that, they make fun of me. They're like, what, like, it's a brown belt. I'm like, is it?
But it's not.
It's not.
Is it
it's
camel
more like
or is it
almond,
cognac?
right?
Yeah, right.
Caramel.
Oh, I love it. Well, for anybody who's just joining us now, we are here with Rebeckah Ruth, and we're talking all about the fashion industry tonight. As Rebeckah said at the top of the show, she's got 17 plus years worth of experience in the industry. And we've had a chance to work together quite a bit. We have a couple people watching live. So anybody who is watching, make sure you put your comments or your questions into the section below the video. If you're watching this later, go ahead and put your comments in there too. Me and Rebeckah will keep our eyes out for tonight and for the rest of eternity, I promise you. And if you've got a question about the fashion industry, let us know. So while we're waiting for those to come in, I just want to say hey to Chelsea and also to Denny, who are watching us live tonight. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Jason Elliott Show. But back to fashion. So I've got my preferences on when I model. But I want to know, from your perspective, do you like the runway side of things, or do you like the print? And for anybody who's not familiar with these terms, runway is like what you see the videos of, the catwalk, when they're strutting down, they strut back, and a lot of times they look really mean or somber. And then the print ad is like when you open up a magazine, you're like, there's a picture of Jason Elliott in here. That's print. So what is your preference, or what do you enjoy about each of those?
So you mean me doing it or styling for it, or me doing it personally?
Oh, you're throwing a plot twist. I want to know both, because if it's different, then I want to know why.
Okay, so for me personally, it's funny because when I first started modeling, I wanted to be a runway model, and they told me I was too short. So I was like, wah, wah. So they're like, we'll try you, print, commercial, whatever. So I did it for a little bit, and I was like, it's just not for me, blah, 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 bye. So then a couple of years ago, I have now been approached to do runway shows, and I was terrified, petrified, but I was like, I'm going to come out of my comfort zone and I'm going to do it. Don't like it. Like I'm like, props to the runway models, because it's so much to think about. Like, I'm like, dude, I probably like walking all wrong and bow-legged. My arms aren't doing what they're supposed to do. I'm sweating, so they can probably see the sweat. They can probably smell me from the seat sweating. Like, I'm like, this is like so nervous. Do I smile? Do I not smile? Like, what do I do? So I'm like, no, this is not the life for me. I can't do this. So me personally, my preference definitely print. Like, you want me to sit there smiling, okay, I can do that, no problem, right? As far as what I like to style, I love to style runway. So it is different. I love to style runway because I just feel like, well, print, you have, as you have to think a lot about, like you said earlier, how's this going to show up on camera, and and the shadows, all of that, goes, which I love. I love telling a story. But the thing about runways, you can tell the story right then and there.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I love that you can tell that story right then and there, because I mean, honestly, what you put on and what you put on the runway, what you put on every day sends a message. But a runway show sends a very clear message without saying a thing. And I love that. I love that.
I actually really like that, because I think a lot of times when we think about stories, we think about like a storybook, and we're reading them and we're sitting and we're flipping the pages. And we can do like my last spread was an 11-page spread, super exciting stuff. But it's like, you look at it and you're like, okay, I'm seeing a theme. I'm seeing the same person. So it helps me. In runway, you don't get to tell the story with the same model. You're telling the story with many different characters, and there's so many different layers on that. And the story is going as fast as you can pump those models onto the runway. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And it's interesting that you said that, because I also, before I ever started modeling, I was like, runway, like, I want to be out there. That's so great. I love it. after all these years of modeling, I can count on one hand how many runway shows I've been in. Now, that does not mean that I don't want to do more. You tell me right now you got a runway show, I'm there. I want to do it. But it's very interesting how casting works for runway versus print, you know, or how often the castings come up for one runway or print. And I think part of that is what you talked about earlier, how long it takes to develop a runway show. You're working with designers to create these garments. You're working with your styling team to make sure they come together. You're finding a venue that can hold all of these people. So it really does take a lot more, you know, energy to get this runway show, especially now in COVID world, because we can't have everybody sitting together like we used to. But anyway, yeah, that's my thing. But it's really interesting because I never knew that about you. I never knew that you had that, you know, that kind of like swap back to the other world, the other realm.
Yep, I finally had it, and I'll stay right where I am.
I love it. So switch it up just a little bit, because I know we always have people watch who aren't familiar, you know, with the topic, or they really want to jump into it. So I really want to know, as you're talking about Worthy and all of your efforts to make this community and this family within our industry of fashion and modeling and creatives, what is your advice as a veteran in this field to somebody who maybe they're young or they're old or they're short or they're chubby or they're to this or to that, and they think, oh my gosh, there's not a place for me. Oh my gosh, like I might as well not even try. What, from your perspective, is the reality? Do you have to have a certain look? Do you have to be a certain age? Do you have to be located somewhere? What is the truth about getting into this industry?
Honestly, I think it depends on what you want to do in this industry. And side note, like the fact that you're calling me a veteran, someone called me an OG the other day, and I was like, what? Not even. So that's like so weird to hear from me. But yes, no, it depends on what you want to do in the industry. Like that's the answer. Because okay, if you want to be a runway model, listen, we are getting more and more diverse on the runway. I'm not gonna lie, but at the end of the day, keeping it real, like most designers are still doing sample size, certain look models, point blank, right? Yeah. Now, is that to say that if you're a size 12, 13, 14, you can't be a runway? Absolutely not. We're in a day and age where that's happening, but it's gonna take a lot more work. It's already a lot of work, but it's gonna take a lot more work, and you're gonna have to really, really search for those fashion houses and things like that who work with curvy models, plus size model, whatever, we're calling it. So it really depends on what you want to do. If you want to do print, same thing. Now I have seen every age, gender, like everything in print, right? Iris Apfel is 100 years old and she's still out there like
and looking good while she does.
Right, doing her thing. So as far as print is concerned, I think print is a lot more inclusive at this point than runway. Runway is coming up, but print, gives you a lot more opportunity. There's also like commercial models, like actual commercials, like TV commercials and like that, and then be any size, any age. So it really depends on what you want to do. But then I would say once you really kind of narrow and also it's not just models. Like if you want to be a designer, it's something different. But I would say really figure out what it is that you want to do in the industry and then research it. Research it, get to know it, reach out to people that that you have access to, who do it, who are experts in it, and start to hang out with the people who are doing it. Ask a million questions, literally ask a million questions.
Yes, totally so.
A million questions, like all the questions, all the time. Reach out to Worthy. Like this is literally what we're here for. We're here to work with creatives who are at every step of their career. And also I have to also say that if you're, people can dabble in this industry. They can. If you want to just do like something here and there for fun, sure. But if you have made the decision that you want to take this industry like seriously, then realize that it's going to be work. Don't think that, as if we're talking, let's just talk about models. Don't think that you're just going to get up and like go to a casting and smile a couple times and you're just going to book, show after, show after show after show after show, and you're just going to be making $10,000 a day after a year. Like, it doesn't work that way.
So, I haven't made $10,000 in my career, let alone in a day.
$1,000 a day, Jason, then we need to talk.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, and I think with this industry being so large, and we've talked tonight about all the different levels, I would also add to that, be open to opportunities. So, like we talked about how we're going to go in there and stomp the runway, and we are going to be like the runway king and queen. And then once we got into the industry and we started looking at it, we're like, maybe I should go this other direction. Maybe I should do this instead. And I think just being open to the opportunities, you might show up on set, and think, I'm going to try this whole like being a model thing. And then you realize, actually, I would rather cast people to be model than be the model. Or I would rather put clothes and jewelry on them. Or I would rather, help people find each other in this industry. And it's really, really important for us to remember that we might show up wanting to do one thing, but like the blessings flow when we do something else. Right. So right. Yeah, I echo you on all of that. So when we're talking about these networks and when we're talking about building a community, tell us just a little bit on how we can find you and how we can find Worthy, and that do people have to know for sure that they are a model or that they want to be a model or these things to be part of this community that you have built?
So the answer to that is no. You don't have to already know what you want to do. It is open for all fashion and beauty creatives. So it's models, designers, stylists, makeup artists, hairstylists. So it encompasses all of those. So, but no, like that's part of, the conversation that we have. And like, I'm going to keep it real because that's just what I do. Like, we really ask you questions and we have a real conversation with you, because at this point, if you're reaching out to Worthy, then we're assuming that you have given this some thought. Like, yeah. I'll put it this way. We're not gonna like try to convince you to be in this industry. It has to be that you've already decided and you're trying to figure out what's next. What's my next step, right? Yeah. So I think we need to make that clear. Like, we're not gonna have a brainstorming like session, right? So, but the way to get in touch.
Yeah, if somebody wants to do brainstorming, I will say like, you can talk to me first and then we'll get that brainstorming out of the way. That way you're not taking up all the time of like the professionals.
Right. You'll be like, honey, I need you to call me back when
Too true.
But yeah, so you can reach out to us. Our website is worthythefashionmeetup.com. We are on Facebook at Worthy Fashion Meetup, I believe. On Instagram, Worthy Fashion Meetup. You can email worthythefashionmeetup@gmail. I honestly don't know our phone number by heart, or else I would throw that out there.
That's okay. That's why we have a comment section and a video description, because we can go back anytime and fill in all that stuff.
And then you can also reach out to me personally. I'm, the Rebeckah Ruth on Instagram, Rebeckah Ruth on Facebook. I have a website called RebeckahRuth.com. So that's, another way to get to Worthy is through me as well.
I love it. That's so great. And I will say too, as someone who's in the industry, a lot of times it is nice just to know that there's somewhere I can like click and I can find somebody who's not going to like, oh, what casting call are you going to, and try to take it, and so I really do appreciate, as someone on this side of the conversation, that there are people in the industry who we want to build each other up and we want to help each other. And we want to be realistic about, what's possible. So yeah, I'm really glad that you've got this passion and that you've turned it into something. I think it's so cool. I will ask you, what is like your favorite success story that has come out of your endeavors with Worthy? Or maybe like just an anecdote of somebody that really like you, when this thing happened or you met this person, you knew, okay, what I needed and wanted to do, I've done. This is why I'm here.
Well, it's two things. So one, I always knew I wanted Worthy to be international because, I grew up traveling. I love to travel. And I also feel that a lot of people here in the United States are missing out on a lot of fashion because they're reaching across the pond, right? So I always knew that I wanted Worthy to be global. So the fact that we're in 6 countries already just blows my mind. It's incredible to me. But one of the touching moments that I've had, 2 actually come to mind. One was, so Worthy's in Brazil. That's one of the countries that we're in, Sao Paulo to be exact. But I was talking to our Worthy leader down there and another creative down there, and they were telling me, they identify as Black down these, and they were telling me about how difficult it was for them as Black Brazilians. And so the idea of them being represented for their creativity was just not really possible because of just the racism that they're facing. And it really it touched me, and it really put because I was like, wow, first of all, you're saying that you identify as me. So that's a connection right there. And then secondly, I had no idea, I had no idea. So they're down there, they're amazing creatives, but they don't even have the ability to showcase their creativity because they just don't get those opportunities. So they're we're so grateful for Worthy because one, it puts us on a platform. It kind of makes us legitimate, quote unquote, that this organization out of the United States is highlighting us and everything like that. But it also gives us, a gateway to other people in the States. And that's one of the things I love, is that Worthy is literally connecting creatives all over the world. So that has touched me. Then there's an up and coming designer out in LA, and we've talked now a couple times. She has her line coming out, and she told me the first time we spoke, she was like, it's crazy that you reached out to me because I quit my job. She quit her job this past January to start her line. And she was like, and I've always loved fashion, but I was afraid to join the industry because of how catty it can be and how just mean be to each other. So she was like, I was literally afraid to do it because I didn't think I could handle it. And just last week, I was telling my boyfriend that maybe I made a mistake. And then you called me, you reached out to me. So she was like, to me, this is the sign that I needed to know that, hey, keep going. And 2, there are people out there really legitimately wanting to cheer me on and wanting to see me succeed. So both of those
incredible.
Okay.
I'm where I need to be.
I know that, literally after I talked, and it's funny because I was open with her and I was like, what's funny is that last week I was saying I'm going to shut this whole thing down.
Oh my gosh. Well, I tell you what, I for one am glad that you have not, and I will say that that's one of the prices that you pay for being a trailblazer, and that's one of the things that we as human beings face when we're walking, in our purpose and with passion, is sometimes we just got to take a break. And we've got to rest and relax. So don't beat yourself up over that. Also, don't pull the trigger so quick, because maybe sometimes you just need a nap, not a different route. So I'm glad that y'all connected that way, and that she shared that with you. And I think that's incredible. And again, another instance of people in this industry being right where they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to be for the right people, which is incredibly beautiful.
Yes.
I love it. Love it. All right. So as we're kind of closing this up, anybody who watches the show knows I like my last question to be the same every week. And so I always ask that. But before I do that, I just want to ask you if there's anything else that we did not cover tonight that you think is important, or when can we expect some more things coming out of Worthy?
Ooh, well, as far as things coming out of Worthy, we just posted we're collaborating with an agency out of Dallas called the F State. We're going to be doing a 5-state tour, model workshop tour.
Oh, how cool.
Yes, we are going to California, Texas, Florida, the DMV, and New York. So super excited about that. So, just keep your ears open. So we're going to start, slowly starting to do more things like that. The CEO of the estate is a really great friend of mine. So we decided to come together and do that. We do have things like we want to start doing trips. So the cool thing about having representation all over the world is that we have to go see these people, right?
Oh yeah. You can't have friends and family if you never visit.
Exactly. So I was like, obviously I CEO and founder, I was like, well, I'm going to go see them. But I was like, why don't we do like a creative trip and like open it up to the Worthy family and say, hey, come spend a week with us in Sao Paulo.
Oh yeah.
Hang out with creatives down in Sao Paulo, go to Sao Paulo Fashion Week and all that stuff. So we're putting together things like that in the future as well. So super excited about that.
That is so exciting. So everybody make sure that you find this amazing group, that you look up Rebeckah Ruth and all the connections literally across the globe that are coming out of this network of creatives. And I can't wait to see great things coming up. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So the time has come for me to ask you this final question. And I do ask this of every guest. And it kind of, I think, just speaks to what is important to each of our guests as they look upon the world. So as we close out this episode of the Jason Elliott Show with the Rebeckah Ruth, I want to know, Miss Ruth, if there was one thing in 10, 15 seconds or less that you could tell the world to keep it spinning until we come together again next week, what would it
be? Okay. The one thing that literally came to mind was, and I know it's cliche, but honestly, be kind, guys. Be kind, be supportive, and be gentle. Be gentle on yourself and be gentle on others because, without even pandemic and everything aside, people are always going through something. So, just keep that in mind as you go through your day and your life.
That was really good. And I really like how you threw in be gentle, because I think right now that's something that we often forget. It's like we're all just a little bit sore right now. We're all a little tender right now. And if we can be gentle and if we can continue to love and continue to support, I think that'll get us through another week. I really do. I love it. Awesome. Well, I will also finish out this week with how I say that I want to keep the world spinning. And it's a mantra that belongs to the Jason Elliott Show from the time that we began. And y'all are tired of hearing it, but you're going to have to every single episode. But it's a saying that goes like this: from dreams to goals and goals to reality, because dreams are for those who are sleeping. If you're alive and awake watching the Jason Elliott Show, meeting Rebeckah Ruth and these creatives from around the world, that means that you're alive and awake, not only to set goals, but choke on them apparently, but to work on them too. It's going to take a whole lot of time, and it'll definitely take a lot of work, but eventually those goals will become your reality. Your reality is yours and yours alone. That means there's nobody that can make it for you, but more importantly to me, that means there's nobody that can stop us from making it for ourselves. So dream big, wake up, work hard, and then bask in the reality that you've created for yourself. And if you want, follow in the footsteps of Rebeckah and come on back and tell us all about it on your very own episode of the Jason Elliott Show. Or if you don't want to be the guest on the show and you want to be a guest host, you can do that too. So we've got openings for this season, but they're filling up quick. So let me know if you want to get in on it. And speaking of episodes of the Jason Elliott Show, next week, which would typically be the 23rd of September, we're going to bump it back to the 22nd because we're talking about creatives. I happen to be one of them, and I'm booked for a modeling shoot, so I can't do my my live show on set. But who knows? Maybe there'll be a surprise behind-the-scenes view of the show. I don't know. But I'll see you on the 22nd for our next when we talk about the Jason Elliott Show. We're a couple of weeks into it, but you probably want a refresher or an introduction to what we do here. And in the meantime, if you want to learn even more, you can head to www.patreon.com/Jason Elliott. That's where you can become an investor in this empire of empowerment and help us share stories around the world. If that's not your thing, no problem. Just send me your love notes and your severed heads to P.O. Box 4760, Charlottesville, Virginia 22905. I've yet to get any actual love notes and yet to get any actual severed heads, but I do reply to all the mail that comes through there. And of course, follow us, just like you're going to follow Worthy, on all of our social media platforms. Now, the hardest part, Rebecca, of the entire episode is that I like to give a high five to our guests at the end, but I found out last week, I went this way and our guest actually was going the same way. So I don't know which side is which anymore. Yeah, maybe we could just do that. Yeah, so I have to figure out eventually, like, am I going to the right or am I going to the left? But either way, I'm giving you a high five for an incredible episode of the Jason Elliott Show. Thank you for being here, and thank all of y'all for joining Jason Elliott and Rebeckah Ruth for another episode of the Jason Elliott Show. And with that, it's a wrap. I love it. All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Stop the live stream, and then I'm going to pop over here and